You know, there are a lot of pitfalls out there that new snake keepers and even not so new snake keepers can fall into. Here are 6 common mistakes that maybe I can help you avoid. I'll tell you the number 1 mistake. No time, Kent. We have to roll the logo. Let's run down this list and see if I can help you avoid some of these. Can I say the number 1 mistake now? We already know what it is, Kent. Are you psychic? No. So maybe climb down off that high horse and let me tell the people. You're going to say that the number 1 mistake is getting a snake in the first place. Well, that was a good guess. You got lucky that time. Great. All right, let's get started. This is Anya, by the way. She hasn't been on the channel lately, I don't think. But okay, so number 1, here we go. Crappy products that you either don't need or are potentially dangerous. I'll give you a few examples. The first one that comes to mind is heat rocks. I don't know why pet stores even sell these anymore. My guess is that most of you know not to use a heat rock. They are dangerous. They could burn your snake. They could cause a fire hazard. Don't use heat rocks. Also, red lights or any lighted heat source. Red lights are never needed because even if your animal can't see red, they still see the illumination of their enclosure at night. So it doesn't work to sort of hide the fact that you're lighting their enclosure up or providing heat at night. And then, you know, a lighted heat source, the problem is that you do need it to be dark in their cage at night so that they have a day-night cycle. And if your heat source is lighted, then you're turning off the heat for them at night. There are some animals that benefit from a night drop, so that could work. And sometimes if you're breeding certain animals, a night drop is good. So that could, you know, that's fine to do. But for most python species and many others that you're just keeping as pets, you don't need a night drop, and it's better to just have 24/7 steady heat. Right? Young lady, you like heat 24/7. Misting systems for ball pythons. These snakes are not a tropical species, so they don't need the humidity and constant mist that a dart frog might need. Misting systems often harbor bacteria, which will rain down on your snake like cool, refreshing drops of respiratory infection. Now, if you've spent a lot of money on a misting system for your ball python and you just have to keep using it, just make sure that you're cleaning out all the inner workings of it about once a week to keep that bacteria at bay. It's a lot more work than just mixing water into the substrate to keep your humidity up. Some of you know that I don't like skulls. And the reason is that those eye holes are great when your snake is young, but eventually they get too big. Like Anya here would be too big to fit through an eye hole. Even though snakes are really good at squishing their bodies down to get through things, it's not an octopus level of squish. They can't infinitely squish their body. So a lot of times they can get hurt moving through a skull or anything else with a hole. I once had a leaf, a fake leaf that was made out of cloth or whatever, that had holes in it. And I opened one of my snake's cages to find them stuck in they had gone through this little hole and were stuck in that leaf. So just something that I didn't think about. So it's good to just go through your stuff and make sure that your snake's not going to get stuck in anything. Number 2, wild caught animals, which you may have heard me say before, but let's talk about it for a minute. If you are planning to get your first snake and you're going to a reptile show, you may pass some tables that have a huge variety of animals, like 20 different species of lizards, 30 different species of snake, all of different ages and sizes. Those are oftentimes wild-caught animals, and I recommend that you stay away from purchasing those, especially if you're new to keeping reptiles. You're probably going to find that the animals on those wild-caught tables are a little bit cheaper than the captive hatched or captive born animals are, and that's going to save you some money on the front end. But the load of parasites that the wild-caught animal is likely carrying is going to cost you a lot more in vet bills. Not only parasites, but there's all kinds of other potential problems that those animals could have if they weren't already screened and treated for them, and with many vendors, they're not. Plus, you're going to end up with a snake who's been through an extremely stressful process of being captured in the wild, gone into the export system for who knows how long, shipped to the United States, and now finds themselves in a completely foreign situation than what they're used to. It's very difficult to have a good experience with a pet animal when they've been stressed out like that. Not all vendors who sell wild-caught animals are bad. I'll name a really good one, DM Exotics. Dan is honest and makes sure that all his animals that he sells are healthy, and I've never heard anybody have a complaint about an animal that they purchased from Dan. That being said, if you're new to reptile keeping, you're going to have probably a much better experience with a captive hatched or captive born animal. And now, for anyone who feels like they haven't seen enough of our cameraman in this video, let's cut to Kent's Corner.
Hi, welcome to Kent's Corner. This is literally it, and it's also the name of the segment. As you may know, I am gainfully employed, and because I have experience in that, I thought I would share with you some employment pitfalls that you could avoid. Let's say that you live with your mom, and your mom is always like, hey, you're an adult, you should get a job. And you're like, Mom, I have applied to Blockbuster Video, Radio Shack, Sam Goody. And she's like, that was years ago, and they're all out of business. You should go work for your brother. And you're like, the freaking snake guy? And she's like, yes, your brother. So you go and work for him. And let's say that your brother is a super sketchy guy that lets his snakes roam all over the house. And now you're in a hostile work environment that is very dangerous. Don't fall for it. Thank you for watching Kent's Corner.
Thank you for that hypothetical, Kent. Seems like a pretty far-fetched scenario, though. No, not really. It could happen that way. I tell you what, let me put Maya back in her cage, and you can come with me. I'll show you where she lives now. And while we do that, we'll scroll the Hoard of Keepers over on Patreon. Here's Maya's new home from Black Box Cages. That's Stella down there. She's in her sky hide. And this one's not quite finished yet. Still needs a sky hide and a few other things, but she's got some big giant hides and she's happy with it. Anyway, these are the Hoard of Keepers. These people, as you probably know if you've seen my videos, help my channel out and keep it going and allow me to do some traveling, things like that. In fact, speaking of travel, we are 1 week away from a big herping adventure that I'm going on with some of the Hoard of Keepers in Joshua Tree, Southern California. We're going to go and see if we can find rattlesnakes. And if we do, it'll be a video. You'll see it on the channel. If we don't, then maybe it won't be a video. But by the time you see this video... Oh no, we're still a week away because this video is coming out in a couple days. Anyway, so much thanks to them, and also thanks to our channel sponsors, Black Box Cages, Lane Labs, and the Royals Project. Number 3 is scam breeders. This is something you could run into online. Let's say that you're in the market for a lovely pygmy python like Pip here. And pygmy pythons don't come available very often. So you're checking Morph Market, and all of a sudden one day there's a pygmy python, or maybe several, up and available. So you get so excited that you forget to do any background check or anything like that on the breeder, and you just send them a pile of money. And then they're never heard from again. And this could happen a couple times to people before Morph Market hears about it and shuts down their account. And it's something that happens relatively often. Although I will say that on Morph Market, the vast majority of breeders are legitimate and they're doing their best to give the customer a good experience, because Morph Market is set up with ratings and you can do a review. So if somebody's legitimately breeding snakes, they really want to have good reviews. So, it's not, I wouldn't say that it's a common occurrence, like it's not happening every day, but it happens enough that you hear about it. You hear about it happening. So it's not a problem with Morph Market at all. It's just that's the way it is. When you have a system like that, you're going to get people who scam. So don't fall for it. Look at all the ratings on Morph Market. Look at the customer reviews. Do your own Googling of the breeder to find out who they are and make sure that they are legitimate. And then you'll be safe. You just have to do a little bit of due diligence before you excitedly send them a pile of money. Can we get Pip on here again? There we go. Look at that little snake. She's doing really well. She came to me at 9 grams. She's now 15 grams in just a few months. Anyway, even though you're very excited about the snake that you found online, make sure you're doing enough research on the breeder that you're comfortable buying anything from them, regardless of what they're offering. You just want to be comfortable doing business with that person. Number 4, advice from a pet store or from a random person who also happens to be a member of a Facebook forum or Reddit group. As many of us know, people who work at pet stores are not necessarily reptile experts, even if you find them stocking the shelves in that department right next to a tank full of iguanas. These are oftentimes people who just got a job at a pet store and they went through a brief training about reptiles, a training that I think hasn't changed, with pet stores at least, since about 1985. You're going to get a whole bunch of outdated advice, like feed your snake in a separate container, or yeah, this 10-gallon fish tank will be fine for your animal for at least the next couple years. Stuff like that. Don't listen to them. Let's talk about internet forums. Let's say that someone who is new to keeping snakes joins an internet forum or Facebook group called the New to Keeping Snakes group. That's a terrible name, but I said that because I didn't want to actually call out an actual group. I hope that's not an actual group. Anyway, if it is, it's just a coincidence. My point is that you go on that group and you ask your question expecting to get answers, and you will get answers, but keep in mind that 97% of the people that are also in that New to Keeping Reptiles group are new to keeping reptiles, and many of them will attempt to answer your question with bad advice. A lot of times they want to just throw out an answer so that they can look like they're not as new as you are. And if that answer seems convincing, other people will pile on and give the same answer. So it seems even more convincing. So the approach here is to not just shotgun your question. A lot of those groups are great, but the best way to do this is to lurk in the group a little bit and figure out who actually knows what they're talking about, who is leading the group, and is the leader an experienced pet keeper? Because anybody can start a Facebook group, you know. So if the leader's a good experienced pet keeper, great. If not, there's probably someone on there who is, and you'll see their answers over and over, and you'll learn about how long they've been keeping snakes, stuff like that. Then you can tag that person in your question, or you can just shotgun your question and only look at the answers from the several people that you know answer a lot and are experienced. There you go. Go hang out in that piece of wood. You got it, pal. See you later. Go have an adventure. Number 5 is internet drama. Let's not make that a part of our delightful hobby of caring for our favorite reptiles. You'll find a lot of internet drama in many of those forums that I was just talking about, because as soon as somebody with low self-esteem acquires a few bits of knowledge, they'll often use those bits as grenades to launch and blow up anybody who's new and just asking a question. Now, everybody is an individual, and we all have to decide for ourselves what shenanigans we're willing to put up with and willing to engage in, but my recommendation is just to stay away from that kind of stuff. As I unwrap Freya from tightly around my neck, let me tell you what forum has proven to so far be drama-free and very supportive and helpful. That's the Green Room Python's Discord server. And I'm not even bragging because I'm rarely on there myself. We just got lucky and got some really great people in right away, and they sort of set the tone for the thing, and everybody tends to follow suit. People are very polite, helpful. It's a really nice group over there. It's free to join, and the invite link is in the description of this video. So pop on over there and see what you think. You know, that Discord server isn't the only one online that's helpful and positive. There are plenty of others, but it just seems like for every one that's helpful and positive, there are 10 that are full of drama and trolls. So just, you know, guard yourself against that if you want. So number 6 is to be careful not to feed into negativity from friends or family members that might be afraid of reptiles. A lot of times we get a negative reaction from somebody that we care about, and that could bring up some immediate defenses. You know, a lot of times we'll try to fight with them immediately, or right then and there try to convince them how they feel is wrong, or try to change how they feel, which can get really annoying. Again, everybody deals with things differently, but let me give you a few real-life scenarios of ways that I have handled stuff like that before. Ah, gross, I hate snakes. To which I respond, why I oughta. No, I'm kidding. I'm not a thug from the 1930s. If somebody tells me that they hate snakes, my standard response is, oh yeah, I get it. A lot of people are afraid of snakes. I'm actually afraid of spiders, so I feel ya. And then I change the subject. Notice I didn't try to convince them to like snakes. I just acknowledge their fear. Yeah, I get it. Me too. Spiders. Hey, you want some coffee? And that's it. If they want to ask me questions about snakes, then I'll give them a response. But I'm not going to delve into some long diatribe or try to argue with them about the fact that they hate snakes. However they said it, whether they used words that made me feel offended or whether they said it nicely, doesn't matter. The point is that they're afraid of snakes. You know, that's it. But let's say they do make it more personal and they say something like, "Gross, dude, I can't believe you keep snakes. What's wrong with you?" They wouldn't say that with a snake tongue flicking on their cheek, but you get the idea. My response is going to start off something similar like, "Hey, you're in good company. Fear of snakes is super common. But hey, you know what? If you want to judge me for loving an animal that you're afraid of, go right ahead. I have thick skin. We can still be friends. I still think you're cool. No problem." So with that, I'm, again, not arguing with them, not trying to change their mind. I'm leaving the door wide open for them to judge me. And you know what? Most people are not going to choose to walk through that door. In fact, they're more likely to walk back the comments that they just made. Also, that part where I said fear of snakes is super common, I was pretty much just calling them basic. But they didn't even get it because they're so stupid and it flew right over their smooth-brained head. You know what? That was immature and I apologize. The point here is don't engage with that kind of stuff. If your grandma says, "Hey, I'm not coming over if that dang snake's in the house," you can say, "No problem, Grandma, but you know what? If you change your mind, I promise the snake will be locked in its cage and you won't even have to see it. And you know what, Grandma? Feel free to buy yourself a pet spider and I will still come over because my love for you is stronger than my fear of spiders." You see how I just lovingly made my grandma feel like a jerk? I'm just kidding. Don't go that far. You know, I'm pretty good at helping people get over their fear of snakes, but I only do that for people who want to get over their fear of snakes. I'm not trying to shove it down people's throats. You know, I'm not trying to convince people that how they feel is wrong. It's great to just acknowledge and change the subject. It's a good way for everyone to not have their feelings hurt. I just spent the longest time talking about this one, and it wasn't even really about snakes. But I think it's important to protect our emotional well-being, our mental health surrounding any hobby that we choose to be involved with so that we want to stay in the hobby. Because I like you guys, and I want us all to continue working with these animals and doing this thing that we love. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Say see ya, everybody. Bye. This is how long my tongue is.